Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Krsnatarian way of cooking. I am Radhika Pyari Devidasi, also known as Rashmi Backer, and in today's video, I'm going to continue the series of Introduction to Krsnatarian, where today's topic will be why no meat eating. Now, the reason for no meat eating, why a human being should adopt a merciful way of living, is there are innumerable reasons for it. There are scientific reasons, there are scriptural reasons, and there is something called common sense too. So let's discuss about different kinds of reasons, and I will be giving some scriptural references to it and some scientific references to it too. So as per the scriptures, it has been defined that how a living entity, a jiva, a soul, passes through various species of life. Now these various species of life are counted to be 84 lakh species or 8.4 million species of life, which we call. Through the evolutionary process, after the 84 lakh species of life, the soul finally gets a human form of life so that it can cut this cycle of repeated birth and death. If you have noticed, there is some kind of similarity between the human beings and all other living entities. So what kind of similarity we are talking about? Now, if you notice, the human beings and all other living entities, their function to enjoy this particular world or to live in this world or to survive in this world is always surrounded around these four functions, which is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If you see a dog, if you see a cat, they also have family, they also are searching for food, they also are wanting to sleep, they also mate, and they also defend themselves. Now the parameters in or the kind of degree or the intensity may be in different proportions, even for the human beings and the animals. Like if you see a human being, they are also maintaining their family. The reason why they are maintaining their family is so that they can have some kind of pleasure in the family life with the wife. They can actually with the wife, and then there is affection with the children, and they can live better so that they can eat better, they can sleep better. Now if a dog or any kind of other animal, if you see, they might sleep in some kind of street or somewhere which is like not really conducive for a human being to sleep, but still if you see them, they are sleeping peacefully. So the parameters or the level in to which they are doing this particular activity may differ, but they are satisfied in that particular parameter. So there is this kind of similarity between the human beings and the animals or any other species. What is the difference then? Human beings have got this different degree of consciousness where a human being has the free will to go against the laws of nature and also has a tendency to question his or her existence, question why I am here, what is the purpose, why I am suffering so much, why this world has been created. Now there is also some kind of reasoning tendencies in other species of life. If you have noticed about any other animals, or to the amount of the complexity and a particular animal has been made of, you will see the reasoning power will differ as per that. So if someone is actually suffering in a human life, they will see others suffering and then they will get affected, or they will think that, oh my god, this person is suffering so much. But in the animal species, it will be little different. Like suppose if a animal is getting slaughtered in front of another animal, and if that other animal has been given a bunch of grass to eat, it will chew, it will be feeling it that, oh my god, this thing is dying, but at the same time they will be chewing that thing too, and at the same time will feel a kind of fear. There will be fear, but at the same time it will be also consuming the grass which has been given. But there is some kind of fear there. So the fear is there. They will reason, they will question that I will be the next. But the animal will not question why, what is God, who is God, why am I here. Its entire activity, if everything is going okay, will be surrounded around I have to eat, I have to sleep, I have to defend myself, and then I have to mate. But it's only the human being, the level of consciousness which nature and God has granted in this human form of life, is where we can question about our existence, that why we have this form of life, why are we suffering, why there is so much suffering around in this world, and what is the purpose of my existence. Now there is another thing where a human being will always have the choice, unlike the other living entities. If you see the other living entities in this world, they never transgress the laws of nature. If you see in the morning when there is sunrise, you see the flock of birds, they all get up together, they all go in the group together and they do their activity, and as soon as there is sunset, they come back. But human being, because it has such amount of free will and developed intelligence and consciousness, that human being is supposed to sleep in the night time, but he or she can go against that and decide not to sleep and ruin their entire structure of the day. So the animal species or the bird species or the aquatic species, the other species like plant species, all these species don't transgress the law of nature. Like a tiger will eat another animal because that is what it is meant to do. Any other living being, they will actually perform their activity as per the laws of nature. But it's only the human being who is going to transgress or follow the laws. This is because other living entities, they are in the structure of bhoga yoni. Now what is this bhoga yoni? Bhoga yoni means in the evolutionary cycle, they don't have the reactions which are incurred from karma. So they are under the process of bhoga, means accepting the reactions from their human form or whatever activities they did in their human form. So they are just suffering it. They are just accepting the sufferings in this different process. But the human being is actually in the yoni or the species of karma. And that is why if an animal or a tiger, if it kills some other animal, does not get any reaction to the karmic nature. But a human being, if he or she is involved in any kind of murder and involved in any kind of killing of other living entities, then he or she are definitely going to get implicated. May not get implicated by the laws of this world, may escape that, but they can definitely not escape from the laws of nature. Now you have also observed that there is a level of consciousness which even different species of life, like different animals or birds, they carry based on what they eat. And that is why we say you are what you eat. If you notice, let's take some examples. Now some examples are like there is jackal, or there is vulture, some kind of scavengers. So now these kind of beings, if you notice, they don't really attack, or they don't really run for their prey. They don't really struggle to actually get the prey. But what they do is they eat whatever is been left by a tiger or a lion or a cheetah, or whatever decomposed thing, and they would just eat that and survive in it. If you see the consciousness of these kind of beings, they are actually lazy, they have this tendency of not doing anything. They're lazy, and they want to always depend for their survival in a way that whatever is available, like a meat thing, whatever is available, they would just eat that. So that is why it is said that these kind of beings, this kind of animals, are in the mode of ignorance, which is called tamas. Now, if we take example of the carnivorous, the one who actually work to get their prey, like tiger, lion, cheetah, a cat, all these beings, if you see, there is a mode of passion involved in that. Why? Because they are aggressive, they fight to get the prey, and they can eat the prey as soon as they kill it, they eat it live, like that. So there is aggressiveness, there is so much passion involved in these animals, and you cannot really keep these kinds of animals as your pet. It's very rare exception where you can do that. Like also with the cats, of course, they are the family of from the family of this lions, tiger, and cheetah. At the same time, you cannot let a cat live without meat. Like they need meat. If you don't give them, then they might turn aggressive towards you too. Who knows? So this is the level, like a level of passion which these kind of beings have. Now if you see the other animals, like you see horses, then there is camel, then there is elephant. Now all these beings, they survive on vegetarian or herbivorous kind of diet, and things become little easy for the human beings to cooperate with these kind of beings. And if you see like cows and all these beings, there is more harmony, a symbiotic harmony between the humans and these kind of animals, these kind of beings, and that is why it becomes really easy to live with such beings. So this is what we were talking about, the different levels of consciousness which is being given to different kind of beings based on the amount kind of food they eat. And that is why it is also suggested for a human being about what kind of food they are eating, so what kind of consciousness they will be developing. Now what is the reason for me to give you all these examples, give this some kind of common sense examples, or give you also the examples about scriptural references? This is because to live a civilized form of life, civilized human form of life, the scriptures define that we have to live in this with the principle of 4 regulative methods. Now among these 4 regulations which has been described in the scriptures, the first and the foremost thing in it is mercy. Mercy, you call it daya or compassion. From mercy comes forgiveness too. So now what and how this quality of mercy is developed? If a human being is involved knowing that there is cruelty, there is going to be harm in killing another animal or another living entity and consuming it, knowing that there is pain involved, like suppose in a slaughterhouse, we don't get to see what is happening behind those walls, but if they were open, many of us like open in the sense if they were made of glass walls, many of us would have not touched what the things which we call as beef or pork or chicken. These things are actually cow, pig, and hen, so we don't call by those names, because we know when we say those names, it actually affects our mind to feel that, oh my god, I am eating a cow, but how we call it, how we actually name it is beef, pork, and chicken. So it just doesn't affect our consciousness, because that is how the entire world is trained into. And if this slaughterhouse were really open, like transparent for us to see, many of us would have turned into vegetarian. So when we participate in such kind of cruelty, in such kind of torture of other beings, the degree, the amount of torture or the consciousness in which these animals die and then we consume it, it affects our own consciousness. And if we still keep on doing it, then our heart becomes hard. Because even though knowing the suffering, even though feeling it, we still want to commit it. And then eventually what happens is that we don't care, even if it is whatever mean it has come to us. We just see it and we just decide that, okay, fine, this is actually meant for my sense gratification, for satisfying the taste my tongue is wanting, so I am going to consume it anyways. So the first principle of living a civilized life as a human being is lost because of this kind of consciousness. So now you may be thinking that why a human being should not be eating. Like, I want to do whatever I want to do. So fine, you can do whatever you want to do. You can eat. There is concession because there is a free will which has been provided to human beings, but there will be karmic reactions involved in it. There are scriptural references for it. There will be karmic reactions, and also it will also affect the way you are living your life. So you can do what you want in this cycle of torturing and creating this kind of environment where you are consuming meat. But then, in order to escape the cycle of karmic reaction, of repeated birth and death, and to liberate ourselves from this karmic cycle, things becomes very difficult. If a person wants to raise themselves on the platform of spiritual life, like suppose if they want to really take up to spiritual life, where they want to cleanse their heart, they want to come out of this cycle, it cannot be developed without the first principle of mercy. Now this was all talked about the common sense, or you can say a little bit of the scriptural reference. Now there are other things we will talk about, which is the scientific reasons. Now research has shown that those people who have been consuming meat for a long period of time has suffered the problems of indigestion, which has led to a lot of complicated diseases. The major cause of it has been cancer. Now, why this thing has happened is because if you see a human being who is supposed to be a herbivorous, not carnivorous, if you see the similarity between a human being and other herbivores like deer, then you look at the horse, then you look at the cows, how our structure when we chew food, how it actually moves. So if you see the structure in which our jaw moves when we are actually eating or consuming any kind of food, is actually we don't go like this, like other carnivorous animals. We are actually chewing it, grinding it. So there is that one reason. You can actually look into it more, what it is about. But there is another thing which is about the intestines. Now carnivorous animals have comparatively very small intestine than the herbivores. If you notice, we ourselves have the small and the large intestines. It takes a lot of time for a particular food to digest in our stomach. Now meat or flesh is like a complex food. Now this complex food, when it goes inside our body, it takes so much time to digest from small to large. And then what happens is that sometimes this meat doesn't even get digested properly, because we don't really have that kind of system. So what happens is that it gets decayed, cause that decay or that deterioration which stays inside the body, it causes a lot of diseases. But if you see the gastric juices which the carnivorous animals have, they can easily digest even raw meat. That is why as human beings, if you are left alone in the jungle, why don't you just pounce on another animal and just eat it? Why we have to cook it and we have to put some spices and all that thing in order to make it palatable? But if you take a fruit, you can easily eat a fruit like just like that. Take some leafy green vegetable, you can directly eat like that. It's because that is what our body, our nature is meant to consume. It is also mentioned that the carnivorous animals, their gastric juice is actually 20 times more powerful than the herbivorous. So just imagine, it is so easy for the carnivorous to digest all these foods, the raw meat or the meat which they eat, comparatively to the herbivorous, which is actually the human beings. So this is one of the scientific reasons why we shouldn't be consuming any kind of meat. Most of us also question that why not eggs? Like, why not eggs? Now the reason here is that yes, many times the eggs which people consume, they don't have they are not really another hen, or it's not another rooster. But what is really egg? Like, if you are an clean, intelligent human being, then these eggs, as you may be knowing or not, maybe not aware about it, is actually the menstrual egg of a hen. It's actually the thrown away egg which the hen releases during her menstrual period. So why you want to consume such a thing? This body is supposed to be a temple where the Lord resides, and we are conscious about it because we worship God. We go to the temple, we are worshipping some kind of higher power. So why to keep this body dirty by consuming these kind of things? So this is one of the examples why, as being civilized human beings, one should not even consume eggs. Now there is another argument, like how we'll get the proteins and all that. There is so many ways now. People are surviving. I have been vegetarian now for like almost more than a decade, and I'm surviving well. There is nothing. Actually, I used to be sick before that, and I used to really not have much appetite for other things. So this is not about the question of what you will eat and how you will survive. There are so many non-vegetarians I know who have so many issues in their body. So it's not that just because you're a non-vegetarian you'll be healthy, and just because you're a vegetarian you'll be healthy or non-healthy. There's so many bodybuilders, they are vegan and vegetarian and they survive well. All these about things about the health and digestion or getting sick and everything, it's all karmic cycle which everyone has to go through. It has nothing to do with becoming a vegetarian. Becoming a vegetarian, actually you can live a very nice, polished and healthy lifestyle. But what about plants? So yes, it is true that by consuming plants also there is some kind of reaction. Now, why? Is because plants also have life. They are also living entities. They also feel some degree of pain. Now you will see that in the evolutionary cycle, the plants are considered to be the lowest, is because the degree of consciousness which is developed in a plant. And if you see a cow or any other being, like see a pet animal, if you touch, if you pat, so it will show the emotions and it will express it. You can actually see it, visualize it, because the way it is, its nervous system, its consciousness is developed, that it will reciprocate with you in that manner. But the plant, where the consciousness is almost like nil, even though there is consciousness, but almost like nil, will not reciprocate the same way. There is you have to have all these devices and all that to see how the plant is reacting to this and that. But there is some kind of consciousness, but not to the extent where you can get the same kind of reciprocation which you get in the other beings. So the degree of consciousness is differing in the plants than in the other species of life. Now, still the question remains that why still to eat plants if it is a living entity? Okay, so even if we are vegetarians or vegans, we are still committing sin because we are implicating some kind of pain on these beings. Now the scriptures define, or scriptures explain to us, that in order to survive in this world, now we all have come into this world just because for our sense gratification, for our desire to enjoy. So none of us can really survive by eating any non-living thing. We have to eat. So one person's food is another person's poison, and one living entity survives by consuming other living entity. It is true. But because as human beings, we have this refined consciousness, we have the intelligence, we have the option, we have the free will. So for that reason, we have to make a choice where we commit minimum amount of violence and still can survive with that minimum kind of violence, because higher birth comes with higher form of responsibility. There's a very beautiful example which Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, gives. He describes between the responsibility of a clerk and a high court judge, and he says that how if you see the work both of them are doing, it may be seen that the clerk is doing more work, but the judge who is sitting at a particular position has a higher form of responsibility, where he is giving sentences of justice to other people, the culprit, and based on his decisions, a person's life can be made or can be broken. So his life, even though it seems that he has to not do all those work like how a clerk has to do, but still the responsibility which the high court judge has is of a higher degree, and that is why that particular position has more pay and there is more responsibility required. That is similar to a human form of life. Now, for this, there is an explanation which has been given by Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad Gita. And what does he say in order to purify even the plant life which we are consuming? So this is what Kṛṣṇa says. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhakti upratam ashnani prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, water, I will accept it. So here what Kṛṣṇa is saying, that he is allowing the human beings to offer these kind of foodstuffs which are acceptable by him. So now what happens? What happens when we actually consume plants and offer it to Kṛṣṇa, or offer it to Supreme Godhead or Supreme Personality of Godhead, to the Supreme Lord, when we actually make it as an offering of sacrifice where we are offering whatever we are eating, which is definitely including vegetarian food, which includes vegetarian food, to Kṛṣṇa. What happens? The offering actually becomes like an act of sacrifice where the food gets blessed by the Lord, and that sanctified food has a purified transcendental consciousness involved in it. And then, because we know it is not meant for our enjoyment, it is meant for Kṛṣṇa's enjoyment, because he is a supreme enjoyer. So with that consciousness, when this food is offered, then this food which we cook, we are cooking in the consciousness for becoming purified, and then it becomes sanctified. This food completely becomes sanctified, and when this food becomes sanctified, what happens is that our existence, which where we cannot avoid sin, where we cannot, every step we are walking, we are actually committing some kind of sin, it actually becomes purified. Now there is another verse where Krishna explains very beautifully something. So the verse is Yagna Shishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarvakil Vishaya Bhunjate Te Tvam Agam Papa Ye Pachanti Atma Karanat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others, who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment, verily eat only sin. So in this particular verse, the Lord explains that how, even if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, or you are not, you're committing less violence, but still the food which you are eating actually affects your consciousness, because in a negative way, it's because you're not free from the cycle of karma in that, because these plants have life. And even if you are not uprooting them completely and you're just plucking their fruits or their leaves or their crops, there's some kind of pain we are incurring to them. So in order to release ourselves from that kind of pain, everything what we eat, this vegetarian food, we offer it. Because first thing is, what the Lord is asking is that you offer me patram, pushpam, phalam tuyams, or a leaf or flower, fruit, water, anything in these categories, you offer me those things and I'll accept it and I'll sanctify that food for you, because it is personal. Krishna or God is personal, and that is why He's taking care of each and every one of us. Now there is no reaction for these animals or these aquatics or other beings, but there is reactions incurred for us. Like we are getting the reactions, and this life will determine what kind of life we will be taking or getting in our next time, because we are all going through evolution cycle. And if we are not using this life properly, then we lose this chance of human form. So very well, very beautifully in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining how as a human being we have to follow this manual of life and live a civilized way of living. And that is why living a life of minimum violence and sanctifying the food which we are eating is the most important thing. I hope I have covered most of the part of why no meat eating. If any of you have any comments or suggestions, constructive criticizations based on the content of this video, then please feel free to write me, and I will be very glad to respond about it. This is what I have been practicing and I have been reading, and it really makes sense with how the world is working. So I hope that you all liked this video, and if you liked it, then please subscribe to the channel and share this video with as many people you want to, because I know that there are so many people nowadays who are actually wanting to leave meat or live a more like they're into this transitioning state where they are in and out of eating vegetarian diet and then non-vegetarian. So they really need help. So if this video in any ways can help them just to give a basic understanding of why we should not be eating meat, then please share this video with them. And if you have not followed me on the other channels, other social sites, then please follow Kṛṣnatarian and stay tuned for the other videos. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.